And say we've done the pledge and we can move forward with the agenda. So, roll call, please.
Commissioner Robbins, Commissioner Rushton,
Present.
Commissioner Bailey,
Here.
Chairman Marshall,
Here.
Commissioner Solis Little,
Here.
Commissioner Alguier,
Here.
Commissioner Lautner.
Present.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment? Thank you. Any commissioner comment? Well, we have 6 items on our agenda, Mr. Administrator.
All right, and if it's okay with you, we'll kind of scramble the order. We'll do some simple ones first and hopefully get you out of here as soon as we can. Actually, we have one more that come up. Obviously, you know, Matt had to leave, Anzorgy,
Yeah.
but that's fine. As you know, we're proceeding with the Leelanau Township Tower. At some point, wish to proceed with it, it's gonna be cost involved with the tower. And I think Matt assumed it'd be about the same cost as this tower ballpark, because it'll be the same specs and everything. Question is, where would that money come from? You don't have to answer now, but you gotta think about it if you wish to put it some money in the budget now for 2023, or do you want to just deal with it as it comes up? We have actual numbers to make a decision, because we don't know is the partnership. We have a small commitment from the township. We may have a commitment, it could be, well, I don't want to speak on behalf of Chairland Electric, but they are very interested. I think I mentioned, Matt and I met with their leadership team. We're gonna do it before Thanksgiving again, because they were actually looking at building a tower in that same area. And so they approached me, can we form a partnership? And we said we'd get together once we have more details, which I think we're ready to do it now. And so Mr. Anderson and I, the director, are just trying to find mutual dates that works for Matt, myself, Tony, and his team to find a date to have dialogue. So I can't tell you a number that they're going to commit me with the cost of everything. So I think we can wait till we have some numbers and then decide how we wish to go forward. So we are going forward. I think there's support from all of you that this is a critical need. Question is, how do we pay for it? But if we can form partnerships, and I keep saying this, there are ARPA funds out there, and I can't think of what would be more critical from a state perspective, that there are second round of funding than a tower to meet 911 services. And I've talked to our state reps about it. I've talked to our state senator about it. And they know, and they keep saying, well, keep us updated. So moving forward, I don't think we decide right now, but at some point, we have to talk about the funding options.
So, what does this partnership look like? They're gonna be part owners on the tower?
It could be, we're not to that.
We don't even know what the partnership looks like.
No, what we talked about, obviously, if it's true partnership, they pay percentage and they would get a percentage of the revenue for rental also, but potentially. At least that's the dialogue we had with Leelanau Township. Chairland, they have a need because of new technology to build, originally they talked about building maybe several towers out there, smaller tower. But if we have a tower that suits their needs, it makes a great deal of sense for them to partner with us. So it's at the beginning stages.
So this tower is gonna have actually 4 partnerships. Leelanau Township, Cherryland, the county, and the property owner.
Oh, well, yeah, there would have to be an agreement, yes. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so, and all of that is up in the air.
Yeah, the good news is, I think Matt gave you a brief update today. We are making good progress with the property owner. I don't think that'll be an issue.
Mhm.
We have a site located. He's working with the FAA, so we're trying to get all those issues out of the way
Okay.
before we approach, but based on my discussion with Cherryland this week, it was pretty brief. They definitely are very interested,
Okay,
and their timeline is the same as our timeline.
so if this is not put in the budget right now, it can come out of capital improvement.
It could come
Come from
contingency,
here.
you could adjust our budgets,
Okay,
a lot of options.
I would suggest that we not put it in the budget. We don't have anything concrete to put in here right now. And I think it's a working project. We all want this. Sounds like we've got some partners that are interested, so until we can nail it down. Our treasurer is aware of what we want to do here, and I'm sure he'll keep that in mind as he progresses through his next year, so.
And we talked about funding options with him, so yes.
So that would be my recommendation.
I do know that Supervisor Cross reached out to Matt yesterday and is ready to receive a request for commitment that he take to the board. So I think that between Matt and Chet and
Yeah, you know, it's a process because we have to get agreement on the site first. We don't certainly want to go out for bids on a tower that we don't have a secure location for. So, you know, it's step by step. It's a slow process, but we're making progress. And the great thing is it'll probably mirror this tower. So we have a lot of experience. To get the RFP done will not take a long process. The companies that bid last time know this is coming. So we've been keeping updated. We've been talking to several of the providers that this is probably coming. So it may seem like there's not a lot of front progress, but a lot of behind the scenes work is being done and we're making progress every week.
Well, in all fairness, that has to be done before this board can even make a decision.
Yeah, you
I
do
mean, the
need to know.
decision has been made, let me put it that way, but how the dollars are gonna be spent.
And what that, you know, if you ask me what the partnership looks like, I can't tell you at this time.
Well, good job on that.
everybody comfortable with just leaving this in Matt and Chet's hands?
Yes, my only question, I was trying to remember the cost of this tower. I'm sure they're gonna be very.
400, is it
It's between four-
Jared or Jen, do you remember? It
I
was
believe it's close to 437 or something like that is what was moved, and then you have the power
The le- yeah.
situation. You just
So
had
let's say
18,000.
450.
Right,
450.
right. We had talked about it maybe coming from the tower. fund.
Yeah, and remember, we will get income off this tower too,
Yes,
which would defray the cost
yes.
too. And that'll be a long-term investment. And our other towers have been very successful, so,
And they provide funding for some of the funding.
Yeah.
for the arena tower.
yeah, so I'm,
Melinda?
I was just going to say that as soon as we could get even a fair estimation of the cost, if we can do it before we finalize the budget, let's do it. Otherwise, I agree, we're just going to have to find the
Yeah.
funds somewhere,
Yeah.
but we may have a better.
well, we internally have had discussion about funding options that we're not ready yet because we don't know what that partnership will look like, but I'm optimistic we're moving in the right directions and a lot of progress is being made. And it just crossing all the Ts and I, you know, like the FAA, the property owner, you know, all that stuff has to be taken care of first. So certainly don't want to go out and build a tower that the FAA says we can't do or need to have certain restrictions on and so forth. So we're working through all that.
Thank you.
Okay, next is, I'll have Amber goes next. She's here. Amber came to the budget meeting 2 months ago with a proposal for some cars. Unfortunately, the cost of those cars have increased. And let me pass this out, but in a nutshell, and it's coming from her budget. You requested how much in the budget originally, 60,
Yeah,
and now you're requesting 70.
yeah.
And I'll pass this out. Do you want to just give a brief overview? Oh, yeah, you have a copy.
Yep. So I reached back out to the representative from the fleet company, and the total for what he has available is coming in per vehicle at over 35,000. So it's not gonna fit within what's in the budgeted amount. This is what he has available now. It's constantly changing, so I reached out to him a couple months back. It was still higher than what we paid last year. But it's, again, with everything they have available because of COVID, it's a constantly shifting thing.
And these are cars you need.
Yes.
And
Looking to
then-
purchase 2 vehicles.
And this will come from her budget, her reserve fund, so there's no impact on the general budget.
So do we need any motion? or-
Well, just telling you, we're recommending we change it from 60,000 to 70,000. If you're all in agreement, Jared will make the changes in the book.
I don't see why not.
No, but we wanted to let you know about it. All right,
Okay,
good job.
cool.
I just have a quick question, Chet, just to push that through. So, like Jim, he's not approved yet because you haven't approved your budget, but he went through. So
Yeah.
are you gonna have Amber request?
In December, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she'll be coming asking permission to purchase the cars.
Thank you.
All right, like I said, we're trying to get through these quickly here. 2023 budget rules. Last time we talked about raising it, the spending limit for departments from 2,000 to 5,000, and then from this from 5 to 10. Like to slightly modify that and from 2,000 to 4,500. So it's under the capital outlay limit, because anything over 5,000 is capital outlay. So we thought, and Jen knows it's your idea, was a good one, so thank you for that. So the only changes is, it was 2,000, we changed it to 4,500. Last time we talked about, we agreed to 5,000, but we're changing it to 4,500.
So do you want a motion on that?
No, this will be part of the budget rules. I just want you to have and this will be in your packet. I just want to give you an update on that. And everything else is just semantics in terms of, we created a finance department, so obviously it's the finance director in there. So that's an update on that. We agreed to put 50,000 for engineering for this HVAC. We didn't allocate a source. Would you like that? Where would you like to take that money from? And Jared or Jen, what would be the options that you would recommend?
When I spoke with you and Jared, I mentioned that maybe John would like to put 50 from DTR, since currently you have nothing in your budget that I believe, Mr. Gallagher can correct me, coming from DTR into any funds in 2023. Is that correct? So you would, if you would like to, instead of taking it from the general fund, Jared can set up a $50,000 transfer from the contingency line item in DTR, move that down into the transfer out, and it would go into your capital purchase, which is your 470 fund. If that's in agreement with everyone.
Everybody,
Thank you. And since we're talking about that, Jen, thank you for your help with the budget process this year. We appreciate it. I know you've worked closely with Jared. I'm sure, Jared, you appreciate all the assistance. So, and if you have brought your book in, we're going to update it after this meeting. If you haven't brought it in yet, give it to us and we'll get you a final copy based on what you decide this afternoon. We're going to do it, but we had some of these questions we wanted to answer because we don't want to do this and then update them again. So if we have your book, thank you. If we don't have your book, please bring it in and Jared and staff will update them. Let's see what else. I'm just thinking about this. The other issue is the senior services director salary. And I don't know if April is on the line. I think she is on this discussion. And Darcy, do you want to pass out the information that you collected? By the way, April is on a family vacation trip in Florida. And unfortunately, there's a storm coming her way.
Yes.
So April, we wish you the best of luck there. Are you still there, April?
Yes,
Can
I'm
you hear us,
here.
April?
Yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you.
Is it raining and windy?
It just started raining, so the storm will be it's starting to move in. It will be here really hot and strong tomorrow.
All right. Well, stay safe.
Thanks.
They're going to Florida. Paradise.
While she's passing it out,
Stay safe.
I drove through Fort Myers Beach last Friday. It looks like bombs, not one, bombs hit the area. There's literally nothing left in most of Fort Myers Beach. We drove for about 7 miles. And it's the same everywhere. It's just completely devastated. Literally, I checked the house that Mr. Wessel had rented. There is no house there. And the only reason I could find it, there's one house across the street that had numbers on it, but on the side where your house was, every house was gone. Rubble. It was just really sad.
and it's hard to worry about, do we get a refund when the folks down there are dealing with that, trying to survive.
I tell you, pictures don't do it justice. It's just very, very sad. So, Darcy, you want to go over what you have here?
I emailed out on Friday the packet that April had put together for you. which included her recommendations and then job descriptions and the current wage scale. I also then sent you a spreadsheet that I had put together. Some of the information came from April, some of it came from me contacting the different counties. What I'm finding is it's really difficult to compare a senior services director to other counties because everyone does it different. And a lot of counties don't even house their senior services in the county. It's a separate entity.
Which it was here at one time also. Yeah, the challenge is looking back is, I think, and it's easy to look back, prior to 2002, well, prior in the 80s and 90s, the commission on agent was a separate entity, had their own board. And the county funded them just like we fund conservation district or the health department. They really were a separate entity. In the late 90s, it became the Department of Leelanau County, and those people became county employees. And at that time, the entire budget, and I could be off a little bit, was a couple $100,000. It was, and they did some services, but it was a much different focus. In 2002, when the millage was passed, the first senior services millage, the budget went from 200,000 to almost $1 million. And at that time, the structure changed, services were changed, but there was no adjustment made to the staffing or the financial reimbursement for the director, which Commissioner Lauter remembers caused a great controversy my first year here, where we had to make wholesale major changes. There actually still was a Commission on Aging board. There was confusion what authority they had. Legally, they had no authority, but they were making commitment on behalf of the county. And so we decided to restructure it and got rid of the name Commission on Aging because they really were not a Commission on Aging, and we became Senior Services Director. Restructured the program, restructured the staffing level, brought in a new director. It was a painful process to go through. But I think we have a much stronger, better program for it. And April's done a very good job of leading that. It's a completely different senior services program than it was 10 years ago, than it was 20 years ago before the millage. But at no time was that salary looked at. So the pay scale, and I'm just giving the history here, the pay scale that the current senior service director is on was established in the 90s when it was a separate entity and had a budget of about $200,000 versus now it's about $1 million, and it's a whole different service, and it's never been looked at. I know this is a very controversial issue. One of the things that the chairman and I just briefly discussed based on other topics that we discussed today in closed session is that maybe we should form a task force, not for months and months, but come back maybe at the December meeting even and look at some of the issues we talked about this afternoon, including the senior services director. I don't know if you want to add more to that, Ty, but to look at it, to see where we are and how we can address some of these issues. We did find a major inequity last year in the position, as you remember, because the senior service director in the maintenance department at the starting scale, the senior service director was about $1,000 more, but 5 years later, that position was about $3,000 less. So we addressed that inequity in that part, but that's a separate issue. We said we would review the senior services director's salary during the 2023 budget year. So that's where we're at right now. April, thank you for joining us in the middle of your vacation. Is there anything you want to add or anything that I missed?
No, I echo what you stated, and that historically there's just a shift in how what the position was established originally and how it has transformed over the years, and the expectation of the education required and the experience required, that is totally different than what it was historically when it started. So
Darcy brought a good point about it's difficult to compare when you look even number of, somebody asked about number of employees you supervise. Well, technically April has 3 now, but if you look at 2012, she had 18 because we had all those homekeepers as county employees. So if we did a survey 10 years ago, she would have had 18 employees. Right now, she has 3 employees, but we have contracted services. So once again, it's hard to compare numbers when you look at them.
And I think that,
I'm sorry,
I
go
just,
ahead.
yeah, no, I think it's also important to add the type of the work that we're doing is more of a clinical approach or a social work approach to working with our seniors. So it requires a different type of position where you're requiring someone that has that background that can provide that level of service and support. A lot of other, and when you're looking at other directors' positions, many of them do not supervise or work closely with in monitoring like in-home services, or they just do it differently. So the position is just very different.
Thank you, April. One of the things that I talked to Chet about was we've heard repeatedly from commissioners about issues with certain salaries. And we've had arguments for and against salary and wage studies. And I suggested that one thing we might want to do is have Chet and Deb and our HR director and 2 commissioners sit down and see if they could deal with all of the issues on the table in a very quick fashion and come back in December and we could address those. But my fear is we deal with this one and then we got another one that emerges. And I think we need to include the issue about the two staff in senior services that are not on the same pay grade. So it makes sense to me if we were in agreement with that, rather than trying to just deal with this issue today. Charge Chet and Deb Allen and Darcy and 2 volunteers from this group to sit down and get the data and come back in December, if it's not too quick. December comes right up, but I'm conscious that we're losing some people if we wait beyond that. So that's how I would suggest we do it, but I don't know. But I'd throw that on the table.
I would be open to that if Patricia was one of the people. I would love to be on that. But Patricia's already done a lot of work on this.
Yeah, I've already, with the help of the clerk's office, I sent in a memo and I've got a ton of information that you would want. In fact, also I asked for a comparison amongst our departments and also our legislative directors as well. So I got information on who they supervise, how many, what the budgets are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
So it's a good beginning.
Let me suggest this. The 2 outgoing commissioners who chose not to run be on the committee. I guess that idea is not going over with one of those.
I would agree to be on.
It'd be good to have people with 2 different viewpoints, so.
And I would feel comfortable with Melinda and Patricia. Melinda's been as vocal on one side as you have on the other, with addressing some concerns about consistency.
You're hoping we will reach agreement.
The challenge, no matter how you do this, you can have people that feel it's unfair. And I can tell you, in the last 6 months, I had quite a few people wanting their jobs reclassified. You start that discussion, and I'm just warning you, no matter how you do it, when you did it last year with the attorney upstairs, that caused concerns. When you did it with the chief deputies, that caused concerns. No matter how you do it, there is no safe, easy way to do this, but at least we can try. And even if we're not ready December, we usually have an end of the year meeting in December anyway. So we could shoot for, I'm not sure we'll be ready by December 6th because it's only,
Right.
but we can certainly start the process.
You and then you.
And looking at starting salaries, and so then as a result, current salaries. The senior service director is so out of line. I sure would hope that at the end of this process, our directors can look forward to being paid at
similar, at the same rates, that they can expect the same professional rank and salary. And it's way, way, way out of line at this point for senior services.
Tricia and then Debbie.
Yes, it is. I guess the one cautionary note we have to issue is we are not HR people. We are not wage classification people. This an objective as opposed to subjective listing of parameters that we can look at. I think, we're kind of weighing in where we really don't have training to do.
Well, I can tell you, I've done 3 with professional people, and they were just as controversial. There is no magical way to do this, because we're talking about individuals and emotions and perspective. So 3 times I was involved, we brought in professional consultants to do it. It was very controversial. No matter how you do it, there's not a magical formula that says this is going to solve all the problems.
No, but I think we can look at some things that are parity, particularly in the director mode. We're looking at budget, size of budgets that are being overseen, number of employees, educational requirements, and that's what I mean by more objective parameters. And I think maybe we can come up with something.
I think, this has been on last year in this budget process. We talked about how, I think Michelle stated this was created in a vacuum in the late 90s. And really, I think I brought up some jobs between steps of 3%, some are 8%, some are 12% steps. The classic example was between the maintenance director and the senior services. You start one position higher, and 4 years later, they're flip-flop. Because one person was getting 5% a year step, the other person was getting 3%. Not person, the position.
But I do.
So I mean, that's just an example. It's,
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Algar that this needs to be addressed this year for our senior services director and others that have an increase.
Melinda, and then Deb.
I will yield right now. Thank you.
My question is, what is April's pay 2022 and what is her pay 2023?
okay, the 2022 current pay, she's at top of the pay scale,
Yes,
right?
she's.
Is 70 with the 3% that was added on. This includes the 3.25% that was added on.
That actually was my question.
Is
So-
$70,326.01.
So
You're talking on this one?
Yeah.
So this is 2023 that you just gave.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the
This is, I'm sorry. It does 2023.
Yeah, this
Thank
is
you.
2023.
She's currently at
60.
20 or 58 something.
68,112.
I'm sorry, I didn't. look.
8,112.
In the fine print, it's
Yeah.
2023.
That's my question. and
Thank you.
figured out. So this is 2023. She goes up. da, da, da.
So in 2020, as of January 1st, it'll be $70,326.
and what is the request in dollars?
She's requesting to be at the same level as planning director.
So she's looking for pretty much $9,000 to $10,000 raise.
With that, the top of the pay scale for plan director is 79,570.45. That's the 23 rate,
Right, that's $9,000 to $10,000 raise.
just under 10,000. And you have this, so you have the pay scale for everybody. Yes.
Over $10,000 start difference for the next director.
One of the reasons I suggested that we have that group of 2 commissioners in Chet and Deb and Darcy. Deb does come to us with some HR experience
Correct.
and some new hires. And Deb is going to have to live with whatever decisions and all of the ramifications from those decisions. And I do think it's fair that she sit at the table and look at all of these issues as a package. And if she'd be willing to do that, the sooner the better.
Well, once they sit down as quasi board, they might find it in the best interest of the county to review all of these positions. And make adjustments next year, as opposed to piecemealing these. And
Well,
if we're gonna upset people all along, might as well do it all at once.
that goes back to doing the wage study. We got bids and the board chose not to do that.
And a comment on that would be, we have been putting off dealing with the senior services for at least a year, if not more. And so if we decide to punt and do everybody's in 2023 sometime, I think on an interim, we should at least put the starting salary in parity with the planning director and pay April accordingly for the 10 years she's been here. Not retro pay, I'm not talking about that, she could ask for, whatever. We got this incredible deal for a long time with someone who's highly skilled and highly educated. So even if we do this thing, that Deb is probably a good idea, I think in the interim, we've got to make this adjustment because we've been putting it off for over a year. So what do we do when another director comes before us and says, I was looking at the equalization director's position, and he's $20,000 more than I make, and that's not fair. And I really think that I should have a $20,000 increase myself. This is what I'm talking about.
Well,
You just-
I can tell you without many names, I've had quite a few department heads come to me, one of their positions reviewed,
Exactly.
and it's been a challenge.
I think if you take one position and make a change today, good luck with that.
That is why it was my recommendation that we give this to that group of 5 and come back in December.
And I'd like to make one more comment in that I don't think that we can make a statement like you're making because hers is so out of whack with everyone else. Okay, well, let's go down to the human resource director. She's below the planning director. Should we give her a $6,000 or $7,000 raise? Does she have all the responsibility and budget? Yeah, we're talking different things here.
Yeah,
That's why. I said-
that's exactly the problem. You can't compare apples to apples.
But they have titles, it's the same titles.
No, but April has a budget of $1 million. She's supervising. She's got 3 employees. She's got a position that requires a master's degree.
It doesn't require a master's. She has a department.
But the point is, and she has a department, yes. Neither is the position. So I think if we pick the right parameters to assess upon, at least we can have something. that's objective.
We can try.
We can try.
So all we can do.
Would this, could I see some agreement to put this all to the group of 5?
Yes. And I need to make one more statement. In the field of social work and psychology, a master's is pretty mandatory for this kind of position. So you can't really make that comparison.
Joe, would you check with Deb's schedule?
Yeah.
And convene
Yeah,
this group whenever?
I've been in contact with her on a pretty regular basis. So, well, we're meeting Monday, so we can add that to the agenda.
And I'm wondering whether have we dealt with the drainage commissioners?
Yeah, you agreed to put that his request was, I think, $3,000 more. We put that in the budget.
Okay, good. So that does not need to go to this.
No, you just want some background information, so Darcy.
I've got some.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just background information that did you pass it
I
out?
didn't pass one out.
Okay, okay. But that's in the proposed budget.
That's done. Okay.
Jared, you want to come up here?
April, I thank you for.
And April, you'll be part of that dialogue with us. Safe travels and hopefully the storm will miss you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
So once again, Jen, thank you for your assistance with Jared. I know the two of you worked very well together. I appreciate that because I could hear them in my office. But is there any other topics we have not talked about? I think we're pretty close to wrapping up. Have we missed anything? Jan or Jared, do you have any questions on it for Steve?
What did we, what did we, did we plug a MERS number in?
Yeah, 250,000. Okay, so in terms of next steps, we're looking at the December board meeting. We have a proposed ad for the public hearing, which we have to have. And well, here, why don't you pass this out?
Thank you. You look nice in that suit.
So if you look at the front, the calendar for December, we're proposing December 1, the ad appear in the enterprise. By December 5, the books will be available for the public. And based on past history, very few people come and look at the budget. I think the only person that, as I can remember, ever looked at it was Mr. Mikowski, which was fine. He's always welcome. And then we review it on the 6th and then have the public budget hearing and approve the budget on the 13th. And you have a copy of the ad. And now we were still in compliance with the law and have a budget done by the end of the year. And Jared and staff will take all these books. Everything we talked about will be updated. We'll get you a clean copy so you don't have all these
We'll
colors.
get rid of all the sheets.
Get you
that
a
are
clean
in there.
copy with the new budget rules. We'll have a copy of the ad. And I think we covered all the topics. If you look at the memo that I gave back in July, we covered everything on that memo.
Any,
I don't think there's a need for another budget meeting unless it's something that you want, we should talk about. I'm sure you will. And you know, I think I mentioned the sheriff did not get the grant for the bolt, so that's off the table. We'll talk about the tower for Leelanau once we have more specifics.
Steve Christensen called me this week and had a revision and going down on some of the assessment district stuff. He was just here.
Oh.
Was he waiting to address? it?
No, he was just here to talk about his salary, but I told him that's in the budget, so I don't think he,
He had asked for something
Oh.
to be added today and
I don't,
I didn't, and I told him to contact Laurel.
if he did, I'm not aware of it.
He said that he had negotiated and reduced some of the expected anticipated costs for drainage districts. You want to
Okay.
talk to us about it?
Okay, maybe just FYI, I can have him come because he has to go out for the bids again, and that won't happen till the spring for the one in Lakeview. So I know at this point, there's really
Nothing to do.
nothing.
Invite him to give you something for the update.
I thought he was gonna come and give an update during my update, but he wasn't here. That's what Laurel told me, that he wanted to give a brief update to the board, but I don't know what the topic is, but I know the one in Lakeview, the bids were much harder than anticipated.
Like
Yeah.
bluffs
Or Lake Bluffs, thank you, yeah, Lake Bluffs, there in Solon. And so that has been canceled. It has to be rebid within 9 months. So he's gonna start the process again. I know they made some changes to lower the cost, but at this point, he's not ready
Taking the
to,
action. Okay.
no. I mean, that's my knowledge anyway.
Anything else on our budget process? Are we ready to move to public comment? Any public comment? Robert? No. Thank you. Any commissioner comment?
Reminder, if anyone can get to the Veterans Day service down at the VFW, it's very, very nice. Jerry does a great job. It's really, as Chuck said, it's really, really nice of him to offer his services and stay up. But it's really a wonderful service.
And if you see Laurel, thank her for the nice program.
Very nice. Thank you. I mean, I meant to do that. This is really very nice.
The let's say that was not a strength of Jerry and the VFW who put together the program, so Laurel, out of kindness of her heart,
The
did
11th
that.
hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, so
Yeah.
we'll see you there.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comment? Motion to move, adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.